Today, Texas celebrated its arrival in the SEC, and A&M celebrated the fact they've got a new baseball coach.
How exciting is that?
Their former hitting instructor, Michael Early, is the new Aggie skipper. But the other interesting thing was
better that than late.
They poached a Big Ten school, or a soon-to-be Big Ten school, for their head coach to be their pitching coach.
You know how we were just talking about Chip Kelly. So Ohio State took a now Big Ten school's head coach and made him their OC. This is kind of like that. This just shows that the Big Ten ain't all that in a bag of chips, John. In baseball, that is.
Well, yeah. Jason Kelly, the now former head coach of Washington baseball, decided to be the pitching coach at Texas A&M. It just means more.
It does indeed.
But over the weekend, Jim Schlossnagle was on the reputation rehabilitation tour.
Yeah.
And did an interview with the Fort Worth Telegraph.
It actually wasn't my fault. It was his.
And was asked a couple of questions regarding Trev Alberts. The first question, how was your relationship with Trev Alberts? Schlossnagle said, quote, Trev was very nice and supportive. I think he will do really good things at A&M. He came to visit with me a few days after being hired and said that baseball was important at A&M, and he knew the stadium was a priority for me in the program and that he wanted to keep that moving forward. He told me that we'd have to build it without taking on any more debt. I understood that, but also knew that raising $85 million would be challenging given all the things that's happened the past year financially. I have no doubt that A&M is committed to baseball and will eventually do something great, though.
So most of that answer, fairly positive.
Yeah.
You know, there's the part towards the end about not taking on debt to build. Is it to build the stadium, John, or is it to renovate the stadium?
Renovate.
Yeah.
So
for the most part, though, that answer seems fairly like, I think if that was the only thing he said about him, I think it would have been kind of just like a little drive-by. Nobody would have had anything. It's the other one where I know that it got a lot of people talking.
Well, the follow-up question was, so what changed? Schlossnagle, Trev came to me the day before the regional to have a conversation. He asked me if I was frustrated. I told him that I had some frustration with how slow the ballpark process was going and that it was tough to operate without a sport administrator, but I was committed to working through it. He then made a comment to me, kind of comparing his situation of leaving his alma mater, Nebraska. He said to me, quote, you know, Jim, if you don't ever feel like this is a place for you, that's okay, and it's okay to move on. I was a little taken back by that, and that was the moment I began to think that maybe this wasn't going to work out. No one ever contacted me or my agent about a new contract for our staff, so I just decided to focus on getting our team to Omaha and winning. So he said that Trev came to him the day before the regionals and said,
before the NCAA tournament starts,
you know, if you don't ever feel like this is a good place for you, it's okay to leave.
Mm-hmm. Wild thing to say.
Do you believe him? It's a wild story.
I believe in everything. There is a kernel of truth. I believe that the possibility exists that Jim Schlossnagle came away from the conversation feeling like he wasn't getting hugs and kisses and, oh, no, we want you to stay. Because some people can certainly, listen, the rumors, even though it really only hit the national scene recently with everything that took place last week, the rumors had been there for weeks that Texas was going to be moving on from David Pierce. It was the worst kept secret in the world the day of the national championship game that Pierce was going to get fired.
The more interesting thing was the timing.
It was just the timing of the official announcement. But everyone was pretty much convinced that this was going to be it for David Pierce. And when they lost to A&M in the regionals, it was a foregone conclusion. And that was 2 weeks before the national championship. So this had been there for a while. And certainly when you're a coach of Schlossnagle's accomplishments and he's had A&M at this lofty position all season long, and there was high expectations of doing great things in Omaha, that if your athletic director doesn't come to you basically on bended knee saying, oh, we'll do whatever it takes to keep you happy. We'll do whatever it takes. And
that it comes across the other way.
And if you don't get that, it comes across in a different way. So I believe that there is a kernel of truth here.
But
do I think
like that he would have actually said that?
Yeah.
Like there's a part of me, John. Okay, so the beginning of that answer, it talks about the ballpark process.
Mm-hmm.
He made a comment to me kind of comparing a situation of leaving his alma mater. There's a part of me that wonders if that initial discussion was actually Trev talking about the Memorial Stadium stuff and maybe trying to compare it to that and how that maybe played a part in him moving on. But yeah, like it just sounds so wild that the day before the tournament that he would be like, if you want to move on, it's okay. Like, I just can't imagine him saying, given Schlossnagle's reputation inside of the sport, how good of a coach he has been, how much success Texas A&M has had, and that's not even knowing that they were about to go all the way to the national championship and be a game away from winning the whole thing. It's fairly wild to think that would be the conversation.
Well, and let's face it, it's not like we can necessarily. Again, it's funny that people will read or hear what they want to hear to fill their narrative.
100%.
And is this to people who believe that Trev, who walked out on Nebraska, is this type of person? Absolutely. They are buying this lock, stock, and barrel.
Yeah.
But consider the source.
Yeah.
This was the guy who went up there at the dais, was asked it wasn't even an accusatory question.
We talked about it last week. The question was asked with kid gloves.
Here's how the question was asked last week.
Back to the difficult outcome tonight, but with the rumors circulating today about a specific job.
Okay, last question.
Coach, with respect to the difficult outcome tonight, but with the rumors circulating today about a specific job opening, what do you have to say about your future in Aggieland?
I mean,
it's allowing him because
it's basically saying
first of all, with the rumors about a job, so he doesn't even mention the job, so he is treating it as like this other entity. Using the word rumors kind of implies like, Coach, I got to ask you this question, but those are rumors, right? Like, yes. and he doesn't use that tone. But again, it is TexAgs. It is a very kind publication to the Aggies. And so for him to give that answer where we all accost him for it a week ago, essentially, yes, or tomorrow, right? But then to hear it now, and it's like, yeah, and also Trev, like, how much are we going to trust the source here, given how he responded to that?
Exactly. So this is the guy you're going to believe?
Yeah, Dave Fight says, I think Schloss is using a situation where he knows Trev won't refute him in an attempt to paint himself in good light with A&M fans. Couldn't agree more. Trev is not going to respond to this because he can't respond to it. He cannot be like, no, he's lying.
Right.
You can't get it. First of all, there's no point to it. Second of all, it would be very unbecoming of an athletic director to get into a tit for tat. He's not going to. And I think that Dave is spot on. He knows that he can use this because there's not going to be a response. Amazing, Daniel. So selfish of Schlossnagle to say that about Trev. Yeah, what a selfish thing to say.
But again, this was part of the rehab because let's face it, outside of Austin, Texas, the rest of the country was dogpiling on Schlossnagle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was so much it made ESPN, Mad Dog Chris Russo went on a 2-minute long rant about how much of a fraud this guy is. So obviously there was an attempt to, hey, we need some help here. And oh, by the way, the newspaper, he didn't do it with the Austin American-Statesman. He didn't do it with the Houston Chronicle. He did it with the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, the newspaper that used to cover him when he was the head coach at TCU.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all
jobs ago.
It's all very calculated.
And that's fine, right? Like, I don't have an issue with that. If he wants to be calculated, it's his job.
Sure. I get why you need to do image rehab.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a kernel of truth here. I think this is Schlossnagle projecting his disappointment that Trev didn't come to him on bended knee and begged him to stay. And listen, I can understand being frustrated if that were the case. Because again, you're the most successful coach A&M has had in recent years. This is a program that is notoriously had bad postseason success, specific to the College World Series. And there was a lot expected of him. And they were one game away from going all the way. Best season by far in Texas A&M history. It's understandable that someone would think, oh, well, they'll definitely want me and will shoot for the moon to get me.
And he wasn't wrong, right? He ended up at Texas. So,
sure,
he played his hand well in that regard.
So, yeah, I think there's a kernel of truth here, but is that again, that would be a ridiculous thing to say.
Yeah.
And you can think, and I understand if you're frustrated with Trev, you don't like him, you think he's a backstabber, you think he's two-faced, whatever. The one thing he is not, however, is that brazen.
Yeah.
He's not that ridiculous to say, if you want to go, go. I mean, I had talked to some folks during the College World Series who were close to Trev saying how much he enjoyed Jim Schlossnagle.
Interesting.
And liked him and thought he's the perfect coach to work alongside. So
Justin writes on YouTube, did Trev know that UT gave him a burner phone and was already out the door?
Well, and that's the other thing.
Rumors.
Yeah, the other thing is the rumors, and I don't know, and people keep threatening, I'm going to drop a bomb. I'm going to drop a bomb. Here's the proof. We're going to show this. We're going to do that. I mean, first of all, anybody who thinks that this all transpired over 15 or 16 hours between the end of the national championship game and the next day when he was hired, if you believe that, then you'll buy anything.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the prior relationship that Schlossnagle had with Del Conte.
Things don't move that fast.
Things do not move that fast.
I always there's the part of it too that we didn't even really focus on, but the last sentence. No one ever contacted me or my agent about a new contract for our staff, so I just decided to focus on getting our team to Omaha and winning. Like, oh, what a very weird thing to add on top of the first part of the answer. By the way, I also wasn't contacting anybody at this time. I thought maybe this isn't going to work out, but I also didn't contact
Don't
anybody.
put it on the internet that I contacted anybody.
I didn't contact anybody.
Well, again,
odd. It doesn't move like that. Doesn't work like that.
No, it does not work like that.